Hey Badminton community, it's Henry and Jeff here from Volant and the Badminton podcast. So Jeff, what are we talking about today?
I've got a quote for you, Henry.
Oh yeah?
Who said this? It's not like I am so great that I don't need a coach or I don't have anyone to teach me. Everybody has something I can learn from. This method works best for me and God is my coach.
None other than the big man himself.
Chou Tien Chen, Chinese Taipei. So who is he? He is a right-handed Chinese Taipei badminton player, men's singles, 1.8 meters tall and is 31 years of age. At the time of recording, so right now his highest ranking was number 2 in the world and he's currently number 4 in the world.
Yeah.
So he's had some pretty spectacular achievements, right?
Yeah, he has. And for those who don't know, he since not having a coach, we're going to be talking about his coaching side of things. But since not having a coach in 2019, he won the Indonesia Open. He also won the Thailand Open, the Chinese Taipei Open, and runners-up for the China Open.
And then 2020, All England runners-up.
Yep.
And 2021 French Open runners-up as well, which is just recently.
Yeah.
So what happened? Like, I guess everyone usually starts out with a coach, and then you see everyone on the world tour, and usually they will have a coach, especially from the larger countries or some of the smaller countries that don't have as much funding, right? Sometimes the players have to travel by themselves, but usually we do see a coach. But
yeah, certainly in the most what we see as an optimal professional scenario generally is that they would be with a coach, right?
And at number 2 in the world, or former number 2 and current number 4 in the world, you'd expect them to have a whole team around them, right? To get them to performance, like an Axelsen who has heaps around him. But parting with his coach 2019, he's now got his physiotherapist now, Victoria Cow, kind of filling that role of mentor / physio / cheerleader support crew.
Yeah.
And then after not having a coach, he made the breakthroughs, right? He won in 2019 that Super 1000 title in Indonesia. He beat Lin Dan, Jonathan Christie, and Anders Andersen on the road to the win there. But it's interesting to say, because we've read a few articles and heard a little bit about the situation, right? And he said that Victoria's main job is to maintain his health and character.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because when you look at competition, right, you think I think competition, the coach has kind of 2 different roles, right?
Yeah.
The first is like the game analysis, strategy, tactical role. And then there's the kind of the emotional support, the kind of the encouragement, the mental stuff, right? And I think Victoria feels that well. So I think Victoria, as a physio, so she'll take care of the body. She'd make sure that he's well massaged and injury-free and rehab and all that stuff. Then it sounds like you can hear her on the back of the court, right? Like she's like screaming and stuff when he wins
that
points.
Cheerleader role, right?
That cheerleader role, that emotional role. So I think that kind of like maybe a motherly figure that's kind of taking care of him, and maybe that's how he plays well and feels safe and feels comfortable to play. But I'm thinking like that tactical or game strategy role, it could be a little bit missing.
Yeah, I think that's the case, but we do know that Chou Tien Chen, before he goes into a lot of these matches, he does deep dive analysis on a lot of these plays. So he goes in with a particular type of strategy, tactics ready to go.
Yeah.
It's just that the degree of flexibility and the ability to change tactics within the game, I think that's where the coach may play a role.
Yeah. And that's what we've kind of commented about his game. Like, he's a physical specimen, right? Like his legs are so strong, so big, so strong. He's fast, he's powerful, like he's so fit. He's just like the epitome of kind of stature. Like he's 1.8 meters tall. He's not that tall, right? But he's just really good athletic build, right?
Yeah.
And I guess one of, if we can call it the criticism, we're quite harsh. It's easy to just look out and say this person's not good at this or that. But probably one of them for me is that he brings the same game to every match. There's not that much adaptation. It's just kind of long, fast attack, but just keep it going. And there's not that much there. I think that maybe another perspective, like with a coach, could actually help.
Yeah, I think so. I guess on your point of being a physical specimen, maybe it's because all the belly dancing that he does on the side as well,
and the yoga and the Pilates and stuff, right?
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I think you're right in that because he does bring a very similar game all the time, it can be exploited by players who do have that ability to change their game strategy, because a lot of the time it does work. But you see him playing players that aren't in the top 10, top 20, all of a sudden either beat him.
Yeah, they can come close to him, right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, because they've come into a game and they've been able to adapt and change, whereas we feel that, I feel that a lot of the times it just he maintains the same.
Just autopilot, right? Each time kind of thing, yeah.
Yeah.
But he did say, like, he did say that like a coach might give him something to adjust, but he struggles a little bit to take it on board if he doesn't agree.
Yeah.
So that's probably, maybe it's easier for him to be his own instructor, because even if the coach came in and gave him a bit different perspective, if he doesn't agree with it, maybe there's a bit of an internal battle. Do I listen to the coach or listen to me? And maybe it's...
Yeah, and it makes things worse for him as well. And I think at 31 years old at the time of recording, right, it is later in his career. Like, obviously he made a change relatively recently. Would he consider changing back? Given that he has produced some really great results since then as well.
Yeah. I think maybe he's also, I feel that that's around the time where he started to get a lot more vocal as well. I'm not sure if you noticed, like when he won that, when Victoria's at the back of the court, I feel he's a lot more vocal and screams a lot more.
Yeah.
So maybe he feels like he can be more of himself. This is just total speculation, but yeah.
Yeah, I think at times prior to him going out on his own path, he hasn't had that fire within him. But then since then you see him just raid, doing this roar after certain big points, or when he does win as well. So you can see that emotional strength is there. I would call it like a strength rather than he's actually letting it all out. So from that sense, I think that he has definitely developed. But I think that where the opportunity is for him, and maybe he does get this outside of the competitions,
itself, right?
It's just that different perspective that will allow him to hopefully be a bit more dynamic in the game and flexible in
be able to change game strategy according to what's happening, right? Which I do feel is a bit lacking. So I guess overall, if I was going to say should he get a coach or not, it is hard, because obviously he's doing what he thinks is best for him, but from an outside perspective, I would say maybe yes, but then maybe a coach that is maybe a little bit more, because there's different types of coaching, right? There's kind of like the coaches that just tell you what to do and you just listen, and that's it. You don't really talk back to them. You don't really provide the input. You're just like, okay, I'll do that. And then there's different coaches, especially like say more European style coaches as a general rule, that would be a bit more like, hey, what do you think? I think this, and kind of it's a combination of strategies. So I'm thinking, what if, I'm not sure how good, I know Chou Tien Chen can speak English, but maybe it's a bit tricky with language barrier, but what if there was a way to have kind of maybe a European coaching style a little bit that's going to help him to kind of crack down a little bit on the strategy side and specifics, but then also take his opinion on board and not to say, no, do it this way. And maybe that would be easier for him to kind of adapt, and then hopefully it would bring like that other element into his game, right? His adaptation. Because I don't think there's any doubt he can execute anything. It's just whether the mindset or whether the game plan's clear enough for him to actually execute. Because technically and like he can move, he can get everywhere. Like there's no reason why he couldn't do it, I think. Yeah,
look, I think from my perspective, he's obviously made a good decision in taking his own path, and it seems to have worked for him. But is there another step up that he can take it to achieve those consistent results, and not every now and again he does play a player where you expect him to win and he doesn't. So whether he needs that more collaborative type of coaching, but at the same time it's like he is already very successsill. Is it willing to change that up right now as well?
I think so. I know where you're coming from, but I think so, because he is world's best, but I wouldn't say he is the best. And just based on world ranking, he hasn't been number 1 in the world, which number 2 is still phenomenal.
It's amazing.
But in terms of that level of consistency in playing and adaptation, like when you see Victor walk on court, Axelsen for example, you kind of know what you're going to get. You're going to get an intense, focused game strategy kind of focused player on court. But like you said, with Chou Tien Chen, like sometimes you can think, oh, what's happening? Like, where is he? Like, what's actually going on? So I think that maybe the coach could help to get that focus in, maybe.
Really develop that level of flexibility. But yeah,
I think maybe Victoria at the back as well, because you've had two coaches, right? So Victoria there being the cheerleader, and maybe a coach that's a bit more tactical, that is maybe has a high emotional intelligence, that when he goes down and talks him to the mid-game interval or between sets, it's kind of like he can feel what he's feeling, so he'll know, okay, I should give lots of information now, or I should just shut up and just let Victoria kind of just support him in that way. I think that could, I don't know.
But I think maybe there is a potential for a test and learn for this kind of coaching style, just to see how he performs there. And look, if it doesn't work, then it doesn't work. But look, that's just us talking, right? We don't know what he's going to do, and
So what would you suggest, Henry? Like, what would you say?
I think what's working for him now works, but I think that he doesn't necessarily, in my opinion, need a coach to develop that flexibility or dynamic nature when he's at the competition. I think perhaps outside of that, he can learn to adapt and change when he does go into the competitions. But it is going to be a hard thing for him to do without someone, telling him to do it. But at the same time, if there is someone there telling him to do it, is that going to mess up his trajectory? Because that's just not who Chou Tien Chen is. He performs well because he's already decided how he's going to play before he goes to the competition. And maybe changing that up will just send him backwards.
Okay, so that's a no, right?
It is a no.
I'm going to say yes, he should, but with that kind of grain of salt that it should be trialing. It should be trialing a coach for a certain period of time and being like really setting expectations from the start and saying, okay, this is what's going to happen. This is like, if I say no, then that's still okay. There's no emotion involved and stuff like that. But I think I'd love to see him try. I'd love to see him try with Victoria and another coach and see what he can do, because I think that it could kind of maybe bring him up a bit there.
I'd love to see that as well. Just even though I don't agree, like, I get where you're coming from, and I would love to see him test and learn that and just see what happens, because there's no risk involved really if he does attempt something like that.
Yeah, because I guess if the coach is there and he tells him something, he can, like, he should have the permission of the coach to kind of say no. Like, the coach needs to be okay for him saying, no, I don't think that's good, and the coach can't get offended. And then maybe that flexibility will help him, and then maybe it will work. So I don't know.
Maybe.
But look, these are just our thoughts, everyone. We're really keen to hear what you think. Do you think Chou Tien Chen, or any other player to that fact, right? Do you think Chou Tien Chen should have a coach at competitions or not? Comment below. We're looking forward to seeing the responses, and we will catch you on the next video.
Bye.
Bye.